What if I told you you could very easily and quickly incorporate video into your existing content strategy? And on top of that, I could save you time, increase the amount of exposure that you get beyond what you could ever imagine. If that sounds like something of interest to you, then stick with me and let's get to it. Questions have come up over the last few weeks on how you can incorporate video into your existing content strategy. And I've talked about it at great lengths in various episodes, but then also in various videos, my content, etc. But I've never actually documented or said, here are different steps that you can take in order to simply and easily incorporate video into your existing content strategy. So that's what I'm going to do in today's episode. Are you with me? All right, let's dive in. The first thing that you can do is to do a content audit. Now, if you're only on one channel like LinkedIn, for example, then you can go through all of your different posts within the last 6 to 12 months and identify which ones have performed the best. You can also identify which ones haven't performed the best. And the reason being is that we're going to look at both and help you come up with different content ideas where you can either add on to the message using video or replace it altogether with video. So if you had an underperforming post, let's just say it was a text post on LinkedIn and it didn't perform so well, this might be a really good opportunity for you to look at the message of that post and instead of reposting it as content or even reposting it as a text and image, for example, this is a really good opportunity to look at how you can incorporate that text into a script or how you can incorporate that text into a message that can very easily be delivered using video. And the good thing about that is that you've already got your message right there. So you don't have to start from scratch. You might have to incorporate additional lines or maybe switch some things around so that when you're talking through it, it sounds more natural. And of course, when you're talking, your words are going to come out differently than if you're writing. So that's something that you'll probably notice when you go to record a video if you haven't recorded videos before from a script or without a script, but you typically talk differently than you write. And that's something that you'll want to pay attention to. So if you do have that post as text, you won't want to just read it verbatim. You definitely want to evaluate it and obviously practice on video, see what it sounds like, and see what changes that you need to make in order to make it video content versus text or text and image content. You can also look at other videos or other different types of articles that you may have created and see how you can repurpose that content into a short form video, for example. The videos that you're creating and putting on LinkedIn don't have to be one or the other, meaning they don't have to be short form or long form. They can be a combination of the two. And I'm a fan of sharing with people in that the length of your video, because I get asked this a lot too, is that the question always comes up like, how long should my video be? And I always tell them it needs to be as long as it needs to be in order to get your point across without adding the fluff. If you add the fluff, it may add onto the duration of your video, but you're going to lose people. So if you can get a message across in 36 seconds versus 3 minutes, then I would encourage you to do the 36-second version. And those, of course, are done better in vertical format versus horizontal. If you're going to do longer form videos, meaning if they're going to be over 60 or 90 seconds, then you'll definitely want to do horizontal or landscape type videos, those that you would typically see on YouTube or Facebook. By taking this approach, you're going to save time by not reinventing the wheel. You're not starting from scratch. You're not trying to figure out a topic or what message you're going to deliver or even what CTA you should use. You might have to invest some time in what your hook's going to be, but for the most part, most of your content is already there. And that's really where the time-saving component is going to be when you're going to repurpose your content or use underperforming content that you want to try in a different format and see how that performs on the same platform, just at a different time and in a different media format. Another thing that you can do when you're evaluating your content is to identify what the message was or the delivery or what components of that might need to have visual components to add to the message and the delivery and even the impact of that message versus those that might be okay in just text format. So going back through and looking at your last 6 to 12 months of content that you've actually published on LinkedIn, for example, and going through it and seeing if you did or didn't. It doesn't matter if you have a visual component there or not, because when you're on video, it's a completely different delivery. So definitely don't isolate any one of those types of content formats, being text or images, but take them both into consideration and look through the message. And these can be underperforming or they could be high performing posts, but really look at them and say, was there a component here that would have been better delivered if it was actually explained or if it was actually a video format? And this is something that you can do and just might need to add some creativity to it and not necessarily just read verbatim what the post actually says and making some minor tweaks to what maybe you need to add as a hook or your call to action, but really look at and envision what that might look like in a video format. And then also look at the end user. When they go and they're scrolling the feed on LinkedIn, what do you want them to see? What do you want to have happen in order for them to stop the scroll? That's where video has so much more magic than text alone or even images and even those carousel posts. Video is such a completely different component that you have the ability for movement, for sound, for text on screen, for movement, for things that are going to capture someone's attention, not only stop the scroll, but get them to listen and even engage in that video. Another way that you can incorporate video into your existing content strategy is to align it with your existing goals and also your existing content calendar. So if you plan ahead like a week in advance, like I do, or maybe you do a month in advance, 3 months, whatever it is, look at your content calendar and identify different posts or different pieces of content that you could replace with a video before you even create it or before you even plan it out. You might have your topics or your themes, whatever that is. Look at opportunities where you can say, instead of this particular post being in text format, I'm going to use video instead. So you're not I don't want to say reinventing the wheel. You're not spending time creating something originally in a text format, and instead you're creating it in a video format. And here's the thing, when you create things in a video format, if you use a tool like Descript, for example, which I'll include a link in the show notes if you're listening to this on the podcast, and I will include a link in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. That application has so many different things that you can do to save time, automate, and all kinds of things. But in this case, you can, as you're uploading a video, not only edit the video using text, but you can also edit the video and download it or publish it in different formats. So with a click of a button, you have your MP4 or your video. With a click of a button, you have an MP3 for a podcast episode or audio clips. With a click of a button, you have a text file that you can use for your blog post or an article or even a text post. So when you have a tool like that that's going to simplify and automate something that you were already going to do, but make it on a much bigger scale like video, which is going to increase the value that you're delivering to your audience. It's going to increase the engagement on your posts. That's where the automation and time saving actually comes into play. Another thing that you can do when you're looking at your content strategy by incorporating video into what you're already doing is to automate wherever possible. This is going to come into play when you've got intros or outros or promotions or any of the things that are going to be consistent in a video. When you can automate that and keep it as simple as possible, it's going to save you a ton of time. But if you are going to add an intro and outro, have it created, have it as a template so that when you send it off to your video production team, they have what they need to add it to your video with a click of a button. You don't have to recreate it with every video. That's where extra time comes in, and we both know you don't have any extra time. Another type of video that you can look at incorporating into your existing content strategy is live streaming. Now, this is something that you can plan ahead of time by creating events on LinkedIn and, of course, including the link for them to join on Zoom, or if you're going to have it on another platform like YouTube, then you want to include that in the event as well. But attending live is really good for spontaneous events or spontaneous news or just unedited type of content. And that's really good too, in order to help your audience get to know, like, and trust you in a completely different way that's being unedited. It's as it's live, right? So you just have to look at what topics you want to incorporate. And when you look at your content strategy, look at, like, of course, in advance so that you can create events and schedule it and people see it and you'll have a higher attendance rate as well. But if you have a product rollout, or if you're announcing some big news, or if you're starting a new podcast or something like that, and you really want to inform people and get them involved and engaged in the process, you can actually do that on LinkedIn. So you can create the event, get people to attend, and it's a great way for them to really get to know, like, and trust you faster, which is one of the biggest benefits of being on video, whether it's pre recorded or it's live. Another thing you'll want to do is monitor the performance and efficiency of the video content that you're creating. So you'll want to look at not only just the video content, but you'll want to compare it to the other types of content that you're also creating on LinkedIn. And this is really going to take into consideration not only the content itself and its performing, but how much time you're investing ahead of time in order to create the content. So we know that video typically takes a lot more time to create, right? But if you look at the analytics and see that your videos are driving a higher engagement rate, they're increasing the number of click throughs. If you're looking at how that follows through the entire customer journey, maybe they went ahead and clicked on and then downloaded a document that was that particular video's CTA. So evaluate and analyze your video content compared to the other types of content so that you can see what's performing the best. And I would also say to make sure that you're keeping your finger on the pulse of all of the different updates on LinkedIn in particular, because they tend to introduce new products and then they push those products, and then there might be something else. So when the algorithm changes, you want to know how that's impacting not just your video content, but your content in general. The last thing I want to mention is to get feedback from your audience. This doesn't necessarily have to be your live audience. This can be on your recorded videos and just asking people to leave a comment, or you can put text on screen and say, hey, what do you think about this? Of course, making it relevant to your message. But asking your audience for feedback on your video content is going to, one, it's going to help engage with you, the creator, right? It's also going to encourage them to like your video, subscribe to your channel, or follow you on LinkedIn. Leave a comment, which then you're going to, of course, respond to as quickly as possible and increase the engagement rate, which is, of course, going to send signals to the algorithm that this content is liked by this particular audience. And then therefore they're going to continue to share it with more people like that on the platform. With the feedback that you're receiving, it's going to help you identify any changes that you might need to make in your content. It's also going to help you refine not only your video strategy, but it's going to help you understand what in your content strategy that you can stop doing, you can continue doing, and then you can start doing. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's really going to shed some light on what is working well, what's not working well, and then also might create some new opportunities for you to do something bigger and better. For example, if you had never considered doing live stream and you're like, hey, I want to give that a test and see how it works with my audience, you might find that that is a really great way for you to not only communicate, but engage with your audience as well. And if you find that that's something that is really connecting you with people who need what you have to offer, you're going to realize that that's something that not only do you enjoy doing, hopefully, but it's something that you're going to continue to do as well, because that's what your audience likes, right? Join my Facebook group, Video Marketing Made Simple. I'll include that link in the show notes as well as the description. And there's lots being shared in the Facebook group, free resources, content, things that you can do to improve your video strategy, your on-camera presence. And that's where I will be engaging with people the most, of course, because it's in a Facebook group. If that's the case and you want to join that community of like-minded people, regardless of where you're at on your video journey, I would love to have you in there. If you liked this video, you're going to want to watch this one next.